Hey everyone, I'm back with another wrestling video. All Elite Wrestling has been a great wrestling promotion for the past year or so. They founded off the backs of Ring of Honor and New Japan and brought in a bunch of members from the Elite and other people from the independent wrestling scene, as well as some veterans from WWE and other promotions. Today what I'm going to do is give AEW a grade. That grade will be based off of singles talent, their tag team, their fans, how everything runs together, and overall enjoyment. And at the end, I will give a complete grade based on everything averaged together, and you can let me know how wrong I am or if you agree with me. Let's go. First off, we're going to start by judging their singles talent. All Elite Wrestling is built off a roster that features singles talent such as Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, and Chris Jericho. First of all, when we look at the singles talent, we want to look at their singles champion, which right now is Jon Moxley, who has done a great job holding down the fort as the top champion in All Elite Wrestling. Other top singles wrestlers in the company include Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, Cody, Brody Lee, and Lance Archer. Their singles division is filled with a bunch of promising, up-and-coming talent. One of the things that I love about the singles division in AEW is the fact that they give such an amazing focus on the importance of wins, and they do that all the time. I really enjoy the ranking system. Sometimes I don't quite understand how it works, but I think overall it works very well. I think it is very, very important that they use the TNT Championship wisely. I'm a little confused why they decided to put the finals with Cody and Lance Archer. Personally, I think both of them are huge wrestlers in terms of their prominence, and honestly, I think giving it to them might be a little bit of a disservice to some of the wrestlers like Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara, who in my opinion would have been some of the people I would have thought of to give the belt first. However, I do think it's great that they have another prize for them to fight over, and I think the singles division in All Elite Wrestling has been amazing. I'm going to give it a B+. I think for a lot of people, the women's division in All Elite Wrestling has been one of the weaker points. They started off with some confusing feuds. They never really got things up off the ground, and I think Riho as champion wasn't that great. However, recently with the championship reign of Nyla Rose, I think has given some life to the division. There have been some more feuds. And I think some of the women are starting to get out of their shells. People like Hikaru Shida, Britt Baker, and Chris Statlander. I do like how they are bringing in some names that we haven't heard of. That way they can build them from the bottom. However, I do wish that they had some more prominent names that people know that could really help establish that division. The problem is that there isn't a bunch of free agent talent right now that's available for All Elite Wrestling to sign. And I think they've done a good job with what they're able to do. Hopefully in the future, once people's contracts expire from NXT or WWE, they're able to bring some people in. Someone I would really look into bringing in is Deonna Purrazzo, who I think has a huge chip on her shoulder from her time in WWE, and I think bringing in someone like her who has some history with the women in the roster would really bolster the scene. I do think it's been a lot better than it has been, but it is one of their weaker points. I'm going to give their women's division a C+. When All Elite Wrestling started, they said that their priority was to bring tag team wrestling back and to have the best tag team division in the world. And they do. Their tag team wrestling has really been amazing. For me, I've never really appreciated tag team wrestling until I saw people like the Young Bucks and the Golden Lovers. I am a little curious as to why they decided the best thing for them to do was to give the tag team titles to Kenny Omega and Adam Page, people who haven't teamed up. That seems like a very WWE thing to do, to give it to a non-experienced tag team when you already have some experienced tag teams there. I was really hoping to see the Young Bucks take the titles off of them. which they haven't. And lately, they really haven't done anything with the tag team division. And I get it, with the coronavirus, it's been hard. They want as few people there as possible. However, I don't even think that they acknowledge very often who the tag team champions are. I do think it won't be too long before Santana and Ortiz capture those titles and bring it to the Inner Circle. I would be very surprised if they weren't the people to take them off Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega. But what I really like with the tag team division is the depth of the division. You have some awesome mid-card acts like the Private Party and Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy / Marco Stunt. You have SCU, who are a really great first team. You have the Lucha Bros. And you have some of the newer teams that people aren't as knowledgeable about, being the Dark Order and the Butcher and the Blade. Overall, I think the tag team division has been wonderful. I do think it hurts a little bit, though, with who the tag team champions are right now and the way that they have portrayed the division lately, which is why I'm going to give them an A-. One of the things that I think is really important is to have some great production values. All Elite Wrestling has really worked hard to have a really great show, and I think it's shown on their show on TNT as well as AEW Dark. I think their backstage segments are really cool, and when they have some really cinematic segments, I think it looks awesome. However, there have been some times where I think they've had mistakes, which comes from just starting out in terms of being a new company. I think they have some things to learn from the WWE in terms of putting on a live show every week. However, I think they've done about as good of a job as you could expect, especially with the current pandemic. So because of that, I'm going to give it a B. One of the weakest things with All Elite Wrestling when they first started, especially when they had shows like Fight for the Fallen and Fyter Fest, was their announce team. The announce team had absolutely no chemistry, and I think that really hurt the show. Bringing in Tony Schiavone, however, was a game changer. The announce desk of Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur, as well as Taz and Chris Jericho, have been phenomenal. Chris Jericho has been so much fun on the commentary desk, and I think when he retires, he will definitely have a role in the commentary team. I think if you would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have given this a very low grade. However, lately, I have just seen some amazing chemistry. And one thing I think that's really helped them, as opposed to WWE, or sometimes even NXT, is that they don't stifle their announcers. They've allowed them to have personality, and I think that really helps All Elite Wrestling. And because of that, I'm going to give it a B+. One of the things that people really have complaints about with WWE is that their storytelling doesn't seem to be planned out very well. They'll have an idea for 1 week and then they'll make a lot of changes the next week, or sometimes they'll even drop storylines. And overall, I think All Elite Wrestling has shown how to tell stories in wrestling. One of the most amazing storylines that they've had was the Cody MJF storyline and the Cody Dustin storyline, as well as their salvaging of some bad storylines like originally the Dark Order. Originally, people hated the Dark Order, but then they gave the Dark Order purpose, giving the Exalted One a personality, and then when it was revealed to be Brody Lee, it really brought things full circle. I think that's very important. You've seen that they listen to their fans, and because of that, they've dropped some bad stories like the Nightmare Collective, and they've really worked on telling some awesome stories. I think they need to focus on having a variety of stories going on, making sure that their stories aren't just about titles, and that there are some really specific stories for some of their rising talent. Give a storyline to Darby Allin. Give a storyline to Jungle Boy. Give a storyline to people who the crowd wants to connect with, but haven't quite yet. That way, we are able to know what they're about, and even if they lose, we have a reason to care about them. The in-ring of All Elite Wrestling has been a great strong point. They've already boasted some 5-star matches by Dave Meltzer, and I think it has been so much fun. I wouldn't put them above New Japan in terms of in-ring just yet. I think some people like Kenny Omega haven't reached their full potential yet, and I think that's kind of been a little disappointing. I was really looking forward to seeing Kenny Omega as a great singles wrestler, and I just think he hasn't quite reached there yet. But you've had some amazing in-ring performances by Cody and the Young Bucks and Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin, and I think that has made their in-ring so much fun. For a week-by-week television show, it's the best in-ring wrestling for a week-by-week show I have ever seen. Every match feels like it is meant to be there, even when they've had a bunch of squash matches during the coronavirus pandemic. I feel like they've tried to make them feel important and have a meaning, especially with their match with Chris Jericho and Pineapple Pete Sugar D. I personally feel like they have hit a little bit of a stagnant point, but I am sure that once they're able to get everything running again, that they are going to be able to bring that up. And because of that, I'm going to give the in-ring wrestling a B+. AEW has had a handful of pay-per-view events in their existence. They seem to do about 4 a year, which I think has really worked for them. One thing that I do think hurts them is the fact that all of their pay-per-views are $50. And especially with the upcoming Double or Nothing pay-per-view, when a lot of people are struggling with money, having a pay-per-view for $50 when there aren't actually going to be people there seems pretty crappy. And, I think that's going to bump them down, maybe a full letter grade in how I'm going to rank them. I think that all of their pay-per-views have felt important. They aren't thrown together matches too much, and they feel like a big deal. However, with the upcoming Double or Nothing, I think the excitement is a little bit down. I'm not exactly sure that it was the best decision to put a Jon Moxley Brody Lee feud right out of the gate. Personally, I would have had a multi-man match for the world title. I feel like it would have been a really great way to establish Jon Moxley and focus on some of your big talent that have been lost in the shuffle, like Kenny Omega and even sometimes Cody. Overall, I'm going to give their events a B-. I was going to give it an A-, but because of the $50 cost that they are putting on for Double or Nothing soon, that drops it a full letter grade. Connecting with your fans is one of the most important things to do as a company. And I think All Elite Wrestling has been the benchmark for how you connect with your fans. They treat their fans incredibly well. Their live shows are so much fun because of the way it is meant for the fans. When my girlfriend and I went to All Elite Wrestling live, we couldn't tell when there were commercials because they had stuff going on for us all the time. They really value making the fans feel important. If the fans aren't enjoying something, they fix it, like dropping the Nightmare Collective or fixing the Dark Order. AEW really listens, and I think part of that really stems from the wrestlers getting the sense of how fans want to be treated on the indies. The people running the show, besides Cody, who I think realized what WWE did sometimes was wrong, they realized, okay, people love this indie feel, so they brought the indie feel to us as fans, and I think that has been absolutely perfect. I'm giving them an A for fan service. Something that's important to look at when you're talking about how a company does is how they stack up against the competition. And I think it's very fair to say that they are the number 2 wrestling company in the United States, if not the world. I think they are pretty neck and neck with New Japan right now. And I think in the United States, they are definitely the number 2 promotion next to WWE. And yes, I do think they are higher up than NXT at this point. I think something that does hurt them is the fact that their television has not been doing as well as I think it could be. I think they do need to work on getting their name out a little bit more and establishing the fact that, yes, WWE was the name in pro wrestling, but now they have a competition, and establishing that they are pro wrestling, not just sports entertainment. And I think if they do that, we will be able to see them rise more through the ranks in the future. And because of that, I'm going to give them a solid B for how they stack up against the competition, partly because of the way that they drop down Ring of Honor. Very much so. Overall, AEW has been an awesome company. They have some amazing facets, and I think their biggest strengths has been their tag team wrestling, their storytelling, and their fan service, which is so important, and it's something that their competitors have really struggled with. And I think overall, when you go to an All Elite Wrestling show, you know you're going to have a good time. When you turn on the television, you know you're going to get some awesome action, and you're not going to feel like you wasted your time. I think something that they really need to work on is they need to work on their women's wrestling, and they need to work on their value for the fans when it comes to their pay-per-view events. Because yes, it's only 4 times a year, but $50 is still a lot. And for someone to want to invest time into watching their television shows, they need to feel like it's gonna be all worth it when it gets to the pay-per-view time. If someone's not able to pay for the pay-per-views, it's gonna be hard for them to feel willing to watch the show because they know they're not gonna be able to watch the culmination of big events. And I think that's something they definitely need to work on. But overall, I truly believe that they're the best wrestling promotion in the world right now, overall, and because of that, I'm gonna give their overall grade an A-. I hope you enjoyed this report card video. It's a style I wanted to try. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know other things you want me to grade. I'll probably do a similar video about WWE and NXT. And let me know what else you want to see me do report cards on. I'd be willing to do it, not just on wrestling. Television shows, big companies, fast food restaurants, your ex-girlfriend, name it. I can do a report card on it. And, I think it might be a lot of fun to get some more ideas from y'all. So if you have ideas for types of videos you want to see, let me know. Send me a DM, and I'd love to think about making it work. Thank you all so much for your support. I've really loved being able to make some videos for you recently, and it's been a whole lot of fun. Thank you for watching. Have an amazing day.